Welcome to Deco Guide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by Equity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
What's up, everyone? Professor G here. Hey, today, listen. This is the introductory video for Rob Ferguson. And Rob, first of all, thank you, Tio Rob, Uncle Rob, whatever you want, Abuelo Rob, whatever you want to call Rob's cool. This gentleman here, I've met him over a year ago, and he initially met my wife, and then eventually I met him, and it's like, wow. The amount of knowledge, the amount of love, the amount of obstacles and things that you've seen in your life, right? And the people you've worked with in your life has had a huge impact, not only on their personal lives, but on their business lives. And so I'm happy to share Tio Rob with you. So Tio Rob, thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I love this. I love the opportunity to share what I've experienced, what I've learned with anybody that wants to benefit from it. And hopefully these sessions will help, and I really am appreciative of the opportunity given me, no question.
So Rob, today, you know how we do it here, man. This is unscripted. I'm going to ask you what the heck I want. We're going to get into your life. We're going to get into everything you've done, right? Because it's amazing. I mean, I'm every time we talk, I learn more about you. And I'm like, wow, you're doing that, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that. And it doesn't come easy. Right? Nothing comes easy, right? Our audience knows that. Nothing comes easy. We're all born in this world with a certain set of poker cards. And it's how you're playing poker, right, throughout your life that either takes you to that level of prosperity where you can just continuously be living life happily, right, and financially secure, while others in our families and others and even ourselves, right, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And a lot of it has to do with the decisions we make, with how we're looking at life, etc. And that's your expertise. You're a business and life coach. And let's start off with how long you've been doing that.
Oh, let's see, maybe roughly 52, 53 years.
Wow, over 50 years, 5 decades of doing this. And roughly how many people in that amount of time do you think, right, you've assisted in either business or life?
Oh boy. Well, in terms of organizations or businesses, right, probably close to 400 businesses.
Wow,
anywhere
businesses,
from a small startup mom and pop to a company that's got thousands of employees and everything in between. And oftentimes during my entire career, I'll be visiting with the owner of the company or the people that run the company. And along the way, some of the folks that work with them have sought me out. And that really helped to add to my resume in terms of things that I'm very passionate about, which is helping people. And I have a lot of compassion. I was born with that, thankfully. So, and the comment you made earlier about, you're born with these things. Well, it took me into my mid-60s before I finally was able to really figure out, who I was, what I wanted, and what my purpose is. And I was able to change the dialogue and the advice I give to people in those terms for myself and helping them achieve the same thing.
So as you developed, right, we all go through these stages of development, right? And as you discovered your purpose and you discovered like, wow, at this age, I'm operating now at a totally different mental level. You are now infused that in the advice that you give others.
Absolutely. I mean, what it amounts to is I've learned that the episodes of your life, especially the hard ones, the ones that really hit hard, through death, through drug abuse, through relationships breaking up, any of those things that are some of the more difficult things that we have to go through and endure that could easily sidetrack us on our journey, on the goal that we want. I've learned that all those bad things that happen, and I've had more than my share, okay? There's lessons buried in every one of them. And if you could look at the situation and find out what those lessons are and subtract them extract them, put them in your body, put them in your mind, put them in your soul, and throw the event away after that's done.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
close the chapter. Close the chapter on that. Let it go. Right.
Exactly.
And move forward. Now, okay, so let's do that. Let's talk about that. You mentioned that. Let's start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where are you from?
Well, I'm a child of the '60s. Okay, I was born in San Bruno, which is by the San Francisco Airport.
The Bay Area.
The Bay Area. I was part of the boomer generation. There was
the baby boomers, right? After World War II. Baby boomer generation. Okay.
Every house in our neighborhood growing up seemed like they had 5, 6, 7 kids. Okay. So if we wanted to have a football or basketball or baseball game, whatever, all we had to do was go a couple doors down. Let's go play. Okay.
Wow.
So all of that was interesting. And I will also say that my dad was at Pearl Harbor when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And,
that was in 1941. I think, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. December 7th. And
he was in the Navy?
He was in the Navy. He joined the Navy when he was like 18. He left, the house he grew up in, the Great Depression. He had a tragic life of his own. Okay.
Wow.
And so he wanted to get out of that.
He's at Pearl Harbor. And those of you, who don't know what Pearl Harbor is, when you do learn about World War II, it's like, okay, that's where the Japanese attacked, that base in Hawaii, right? That Navy base, and just leveled it. And literally was the start of the United States going into World War II.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what brought us into the war.
And he survived, right? Because you're here.
Yes. Well, he survived physically. Okay. And as the foundation of my entire issues with my life was my father. His experiences that brought him to join the Navy when he did, and to move out of Detroit, move to California during the Depression, all those different things. It was a hard life for him as a kid growing up. So he goes into the Navy, see the world, get out of that place where he was at. And then he wakes up early Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941, bombs. And the ship he was on,
and he's
sank
what, like
right
18, maybe 19?
He was 21. It was just
21, okay. Mm-hmm.
He was in the Navy for like 3 years prior to that. And he wanted to share with me from the time I was a little kid until he left the house, what that was like. In graphic detail, showing me pictures. He would he had night sweats his entire life from him listening to guys on the other side of a battleship going down, banging on the side of the ship, saying, "Help me, help me, help me." And there's nothing they can do.
While it's sinking. Oh.
Yeah, right.
Wow. So trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. But back then they didn't know what that was, right?
No,
it was,
and it never went away. He was a tough guy, right?
Wow.
And nothing like that was going to bother him. He was also a racist. He was a bigot. He was
taught to hate. He was taught to hate.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it is you're going through World War II as well, right? And yeah, I mean, now you're fighting, other people, right, in other countries. And yeah, no I can only imagine that reinforced a lot of the anger.
Absolutely. He was a narcissist. I mean, all these different terms that I've learned since our president a couple of years back there helped me even fully understand my dad. And the point being, my mom was the opposite. My mom got married when she was 16. She had met my dad when she was 14. And on their wedding day, my father was surprised to learn that my grandmother had to get permission for the wedding. He said, "What's this?" He learned at that time that my mom was 16. So she grew up in the Depression in a different environment and in a different situation than my dad did. So she taught me love. She taught me understanding. She said, "Don't hold your dad, don't take him too personally because he's been through a lot." So she taught me compassion, or she didn't teach me compassion. She helped me identify my compassion.
God, wow! So you have total opposite parents.
Completely, yeah. So she brought me up with the rules that said, treat everyone the way you want to be treated, right? Look for the good in everybody, and even bad people have some good qualities if you look for it. So eventually, my mom and dad had very, very trying marriage and relationship. My dad medicated himself all the time with alcohol, sex, gambling, anything to take the pain of the war away. And my mom didn't know anything other than she wanted to be a housewife with a white picket fence in front of the house and to raise her family. She had more love than anybody I've ever met in my life. And so when finally, to protect us as kids and me, she told my dad, you got to leave. It's not going to happen. It's not working. And for her to do that at that age was extremely brave of her. She didn't have a driver's license. She didn't have a high school education. She had nothing. I mean, other than the love in her heart and her willingness to go out and do what she had to do to raise us, because my dad didn't give us a dime.
And when you say us, you're talking about how many siblings here?
I'm talking about my older sister and I. I have two older sisters. My oldest sister was out of the house right around that same time. She got pregnant and she got married, and she had her child when she was 18. And that left me and my sister that was 2 years. She was 13, I was 11 when this happened. So thankfully, though, I grew up in a neighborhood with, again, 1 million kids. And there was a kid that lived up the street from me, 2 houses up. To this day, he's my best friend. We visit every week. He's coming to my house next week again. He lives in Pacifica. He's one of 4 people that I consider to be my brothers. I didn't have any real life brothers, but I've got 4 people that I've known anywhere from 40 to 71 years, 72 years, that are there when I need them, and I'm there when they need me. So that's really helped.
Wow, that's a real friendship.
Yeah, that's why I call them my brothers, man. I mean, these guys, they know everything about me. They know all the good, the bad, the ugly. They know everything. They know all my warts, where they are, and all that. I know that about them.
Yeah,
and they've been very gracious with their love and our friendship. So I appreciate it.
And those are critical to have to keep that healthy lifestyle, right? Because often nowadays with social media and all the technology, we think they're friends, but they're not friends. You know what I mean? These people, they might be associated to us through, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook kind of stuff. But in reality, they're not your friends. You know what I mean? Your friends are people you actually spend time with, right? Those are acquaintances. And often our young people nowadays, they assume those people are the ones that can fulfill this friendship need. And realistically, it's not. It's the friendships you're talking about, right? The lifelong friendships where you seek each other out for advice, seek each other out just to spend time together, outside of the family, just me and my friends, those kinds of things. It is super healthy for young and us adults, right? Is having that outlet. So, if you're listening, seek out those people that are true friends of yours, because that helps, especially when you're going through some stuff.
Well, and I'm really lucky in my life because these 4 people all have tremendous representations in different aspects of life, and they coach me. My oldest friend, for example, he's a professional musician. He's been nominated for 7 Grammy Awards, and he's traveled the world with his stand-up bass, okay? And I remember when he had his first music lesson, okay, when he was great. My next oldest friend, he and I went through high school together. We met as football players as a freshman in high school. By the way, we went undefeated and unscored upon the entire season. And he and I, beginning in about my sophomore year in high school, we got together politically. He was the leader in my work with the Farm Workers Union. I met Dolores. I didn't meet Cesar Chavez himself, but I met Dolores, his sister, and it was amazing. It was
wow, and this was when you were still in the Bay Area as a young man.
I was in high school. I was a junior in high school when I met Dolores, and all the other folks that were part of that.
Dolores Huerta from the United Farm Workers Union.
Exactly. Yeah, somewhere around Army 25th. I forget the exact address of the house that we would go to, but she was the driving force behind that, man. She knew how to, she cooked, she fed everybody, she kept everybody's spirits up. I mean, at Cesar Chavez Plaza, in Sacramento, there's a statue of Cesar Chavez, but there should also be a statue of Dolores Huerta. She was amazing. Okay, she was a strong so, and this same friend of mine also, we were involved in the anti-war movement and so forth. So he was very engaged politically, and he's the kind of quiet guy in the background, whereas I was kind of like the voice out in front. You know, it's always been my role. I've been an activist then. And then the next, then I'll tell you about my wife. I mean, she's my best friend. We got married at 20, and I started dating her when I was 16.
At 20? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
We've been
still
married
young.
52 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So we've had a good time with that.
That in itself is winning the Super Bowl that long, right? And that,
I think
you're
so.
very blessed because last I checked, the divorce rate in California was over 50%.
Exactly. Yeah.
So congratulations.
And, thank you. And this goes back to the comment you were making earlier about the number of lives that we live. I have had at least 8 different episodes in my life that were very different, and my dear wife lived through them all with me as a gambler, as a guy that drank a lot, as a guy that overate, and all these different things, man. Drugs, you name it. I mean, I whatever the issue is, I went through it and got over it. Thankfully, she was along my side the whole time. So that's my wife. But we'll talk about that, I'm sure, from time to time. The next guy, though, that I met is an amazing gentleman. I had a major Central Valley poultry producer. Okay, there's one of them out there. I got them as a client when I was 25, and I got to know the company. I designed some very exotic insurance products for them, risk management products, and I met a gentleman that was their director of finance, who had an MBA at the time. And when he had cancer, he went back to school during cancer, and he earned his PhD in business administration. So he's been my friend, close friend of mine from the late 70s to this day. He's older than I am. He's 82. We speak once a week anyway. I share my experiences with what I'm doing with people and the businesses and so forth. And he is generous with his experiences and his knowledge from me. And I think I help keep him young by sharing with him what I'm doing. Okay? And then about 10 years after that, not even quite, from the early 80s to today, the fourth brother I have is a gentleman, lives in Southern California, and he's an international attorney. And he was an attorney that I worked with a lot. Global attorney. But he did a lot of local stuff too. As a matter of fact, like in the 80s, there was a safety for the Minnesota Vikings. His name escapes me for the moment. But he negotiated the highest paid contract in the NFL. Was with this guy.
Wow.
And I don't remember his name right now. But so he between my friend that's a PhD in business administration and my friend that I've known for over 40 years, that's my attorney, and I bring him in to everybody I work with these days. He's a few years older than I am. Those are two amazing things. My political friend, who is also a musicologist, the guy knows more about music than any performers. He could go down any genre. And then, of course, my oldest friend, Jim. His wife passed when he was like in 1999, 2000, and he had two kids. And I was at his house all the time and held her hand when she was passing and so forth. So, all these different experiences, friends dying. I had 3 friends murdered. I had 8 people die of cancer. So these are all things that go back to the original comment. If you can look at these things and understand them and process them and say, what am I learning here? The one thing I do know for sure is that every bad event, once you extract the lessons from it and throw it away, leads to something better, leads to something more powerful, leads to something that'll inspire you to get things done that maybe you haven't done before. And that has helped me elevate my life dramatically over the last, let's say, 20 years, and in particular, the last 10 years. So you never stop learning. You never stop doing.
And so you've established as a young man, as it sounds like in your teens and 20s, right? Most of these friends that now are family, right? That exactly. are like your brothers. These people, you've maintained this relationship for decades. You've obviously learned a lot from them, just from the stories and hearing about their, travels with music and how that system works, and then the PhD in business, et cetera, et cetera. So each of them is bringing some set of knowledge to you, right? And you doing the same. You're doing the same to them. You're every conversation to them, they're learning about something. You were just saying about your eldest friend, right? You're the connection to the younger crowd, etc. And so
exactly,
you're adding serious value to them within these friendships that you've created. And I'm assuming most of them were on this side of the country, like California, kind of while you were in San Francisco. That's all happening kind of Bay Area.
Yeah, my PhD friend lives in Texas now. Actually, I brought him to Texas from California, from San Jose in particular, and I'll share with you the story. He, by the late 90s, he was a cocaine addict.
Mm-hmm.
He had thrown away his career. He was living on the streets of New York. And the guardian angels worked with another friend of his, and they found him on Times Square. They brought him back to California. He went into a church ministry in San Jose, and 6 months in that, he got clean. He got his life together. He found God, which helped him a great deal. I flew him back to Dallas. He went to work with a company that I had as a client back then, big company, and he became their president. He met his current wife. So it's a complete turnaround. And then he got cancer. He survived cancer 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So started life, met you, then went downhill, right? Just because that happens, right? Life is not about always continuously going.
No. The 80s were the cocaine generation, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I was in San Francisco, and I worked in an office building. I had to suit on every day and so forth. And you can go into the bathroom on any building in San Francisco, and during the lunch hour or whatever, this guy's doing lines in suits, vice president, blah, blah, blah. Then they go down and smoke some pot between the buildings, and they go back to work. And that was common.
Just uncontrolled, just drug problems at the highest levels, at the lowest levels. There's the crack cocaine epidemic. There's it's just chaos, right? And you had to live through that and participate, right? I mean, no bullshit, because you mentioned it, right?
No, you had to survive it, man.
Exactly. So there was alcoholism involved. There was drug abuse involved. That was part of one of your stages in life.
Definitely. And all the things that go along with that. So I had, so all those things were there. So that was, and all those things and all those experiences, I mean, it gave me an education in so many areas. Okay.
Wow. What do you think you were? Your dad was doing some of that stuff. My dad's an alcoholic. Well, he passed about 7 years ago, but he was an alcoholic. He had cirrhosis of the liver. You name it. Could never really kick the bottle. Would not, would refuse to go into rehab, those kinds of things. It's just, we just had to live through that, right? And it was chaos. My mom never left my dad, just stayed with him the whole time until his passing. But it was chaos on the children. So I understand some of the things you may have seen and gone through, with that kind of, one of the parents, just really, really controlled by a substance, right? I myself had some alcohol issues, especially in college, right? And some drug issues, especially, during that time. I was, I was self-medicating a lot of the trauma and violence and things. Did you realize you were self-medicating something, or were you just out there to party?
At the time I was out there to party, during the cocaine career in particular. It took me a few years to realize what I was doing to myself and my family. And I just said, screw it. I'm not going to do this anymore. And it really wasn't until, say, 2015, 2016, I was in some classes that really helped me put this together. And it opened my eyes to why I lived the life that I did. Why was I self-medicated?
Because you lived it for a lot of years, right? I mean, you lived this kind of lifestyle for how many years, would you say?
A good, let's say, 40 years anyway. Okay.
Wow.
Between gambling and drinking and drugs and living a bad lifestyle. And
just kind of switching it up over the decades, right? Depending on what it is, just another.
and I had clients that this was again a period of time when I was successful. I was a very successful guy. It was all about risk management and insurance and so forth and so on, which led me to my other careers. But
so you were a businessman. I mean, for clarification's sake, for these 40 years, you're a business guy. You're a businessman.
Yep. Up until the late 90s, 1990s, I wore a suit, most likely a three-piece, pinstripe or navy blue or gray suit.
Baller status.
Baby, man, I had the wingtips on, the whole bit, right?
So your outfit with hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I mean, possibly thousands of dollars. What you got wearing?
I'll give you an example. My daughter, I have a son and a daughter, and I'm so blessed. They're amazing people, and they live up with me up here. They build houses up here, as you see. But now, I remember going to my daughter's kindergarten. The teacher was a good friend of ours, and she asked me to come in and introduce these kids to fishing. There's another career I had, was an avid fly fisherman. I used to guide and teach people that. So I came into her kindergarten room one day to show these young kids. We tied a very simple fly, and I knew a lake right there in Walnut Creek that we could go to. And I could take anything they wanted to cast and cast it up. And when they retrieve this thing, boom, they got a fish. But I do remember going in there to teach that class with cocaine around my nose. I came home and thought, oh my God, did I teach that class like that? Oh, okay.
Wow. Yeah, because you were still
told anybody that story, but
yeah, but you were still involved. I mean, it was still a big part of your life. It was, even as a high functioning professional, right?
Yeah. And I still wanted, and I was a good father. I mean, I wanted to be a father. I coached youth sports, all these different things, but that was the other side of it. Okay? And it wasn't until much later in my life that I gave up any notion of living that kind of life. Because
nowadays you don't do anything. You don't drink. You don't absolutely no drugs. It's all because you went through another phase that I know about health, right? Because at this point in your life, when you were still doing all this other stuff, your health was not good.
I was given 10, 15 years to live. I was in my mid-50s, and my doctor said I was over 300 pounds. And my doctor says, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're never going to watch your grandkids grow up. You're not going to see them.
You were over 300 pounds? You don't look over 300 pounds.
No, I was 308 pounds at my tops, and I'm in my mid-170s pretty much ever since 2008.
You lost half of yourself. You got rid of half of your body weight.
And what that exercise?
What changed? Was it? Well, yeah. Tell me about that journey. What changed? The doctor tells you this.
Well, he told me. So he says, look. I said, wow, what do I do about it? He said, well, you have to completely change everything you do in terms of what you put into your mouth. Okay. And he says, and my diabetes was off the charts. I was type 2 diabetes. And every time I do it every 3 months, and he says, well, Rob, it got worse. To the point where he was going to hospitalize me. And so he said, there is one thing that we can do that would help accelerate the whole program. But in order to do this, you have to convince 2 psychologists, each separately, that you're going to change the way you live. Otherwise, I won't do it, because this thing costs $100,000 to the insurance company.
Wow.
It's a weak surgery. So I had to go in and have a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. And what that
is that where they shrink they take out basically your stomach and they leave you with like a tiny one?
Yep, exactly. And they also bypass the duodenum. So within 30 days, which is at the top of the stomach, and the process is sugar. It controls your glucose. So as a result of that, within 30 days, my all my meds were off. I was on 4 different diabetic medications, and it all went away. However, January through July 2007, I had a radio show at the time. Business by Design, a Bay Area talk show, about business, right? And the first 6 months, I would say, I was really into business. I was doing all this and so forth. Then I had the surgery, and I had to record a couple of shows in order to take the time off to do this. And when I came back, I still had a 6-month contract. Things changed, okay? As important as
How
it was,
so?
the business advice, well, the business advice I was giving didn't mean a damn thing if the people listening to it didn't know how to change. That was the key. I had to learn how to erase the stuff that I had been built upon in my life and replace it with stuff that was going to make me healthy. That's what I convinced the psychologists that I've been doing. They allowed me to go through this. And I did. I'm telling you, man, I got out of the hospital, I think it was July 27th in 2007. And 7 months later, I was 175 pounds. I was in the best shape of my life. I worked out all the time. I was running. I was walking the hills, doing all these things. And I felt like I had never felt in my entire life. Ever.
The amount of energy,
And,
way more energy, first of all. What about all
energy.
the aches and pains? All the aches and pains you used to have.
I loved them. I was looking forward to it. The aches and pains, instead of being other things, were now sore biceps. My legs were sore because I was walking and running. You know, I played football and all that. So I wrestled in high school as well. I wrestled at 210 pounds in high school. And
still a big boy. Big boy. That's a big boy weight in high school.
Well, that's because from the time I was 14 until I was 20 and I got married, my dad came back into our life and he did me a big favor. I was 14. He got me a job in San Francisco at Belfast Beverages on Valencia Street, 16th and Valencia in San Francisco. He got a job there. And my job was to pick up 65-pound boxes of lemons, put them in a big container, and I put them in a thing, and make sure that there was no rots in there, and to make sure that there was no more than about 6 or 7 going up the conveyor belt to make Schweppes bitter lemon concentrate.
Okay,
that
so
was my
a lemonade manufacturing plant, but you're lifting 65 pounds all day. So you're working out.
48 to a pallet, 10 pallets a day. 10 pallets a day. Okay.
Oh, so you're lifting weights, but you're lifting lemons. You're lifting.
Exactly. And when I turned 16, they promoted me to being the shipping clerk, the forklift driver. And I would load trucks. And they would come on
now
pallets.
You're operating machinery.
I used to lift about 300,000 pounds a day.
Wow.
In stuff that went into these trucks all day long. I had my forklift. I was double parked with these trucks, and cars were going around me, and so forth and so on. The place is no longer there. It's been replaced by another business that Maria knows very well. So yeah,
so you're perfect. You're perfect for the wrestling team.
Oh, baby, man! I mean, I was, and I was strong. Okay, I mean, when I was wrestling, you know, I would bench 350. You know, a few times, not a lot, mind you, but I could do that. Even when I was 300 pounds, and I was doing my weight training and so forth, I would plate loaded squat press 1,500 pounds because that's all they had.
Wow.
Laying on my back. Wow. So when you're 300 pounds and you're active and you're a fly fisherman, you play tennis, doing these things, you're also pretty strong.
But during this time, all this time, you have no knowledge of nutrition. Like you're just eating whatever's there, right? When you get home, whatever's on the plate, you're eating.
First of all, at the same time during the off season, I worked full time. Every time there was a vacation, summer vacation, Christmas vacation, Easter, spring break, you name it, I was in San Francisco working. When I wasn't doing that, I was at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I was scarfing down 18, 20, 25 pieces of chicken a day, probably a good quart or two of mashed potatoes and gravy and all that stuff. And then when I was back at the soda pop place, right, they had a walk-in and it was full of mug old-fashioned root beer and Pepsi and all these things. And I would go in all the time, just slopping that stuff down, you know, So boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. So uncontrolled amount of sugar, uncontrolled amount of just fats, just taken in because you just didn't know, and you didn't know internally, and no one really ever taught you that there's this thing called nutrition.
Exactly, and that and 2 or 3 packs of Camels a day, unfiltered.
Ooh.
Oh
wow! So add smoking to that.
Yeah, and then when I was 16, I remember, you know what? My dad's always talking about scotch and beer, you know. And so I thought, let me give that a shot, see what that's like. Got a little bottle of White Horse and a couple of cans of Old English 800, you know, just to see what that was like. I'm glad I, you know. So, and I'll tell you one other quick little story going back on my memory. I remember the day that Cesar Chavez, I beg your pardon, Martin Luther King, when Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
I was riding home in my dad's car. He was getting me right at my house. And they had caught James Earl Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about, and my dad said, they shouldn't arrest him, they should give him a medal.
Wow. Yeah, because you told us about your dad's philosophy, exactly.
Yeah. I said, it was so hard for me because he was such a domineering, you know, narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Dad, you just can't feel that way. And he looked at me like, you don't talk to me that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I'd ever stood up to him on that day.
Yeah,
because
you were a teenager.
Oh man, not only was I a teenager, but I was an activist, and I was involved. Man, I wanted all these social problems to go away. Man, I didn't want this stuff to happen, and I had some friends that were in San Mateo and so forth. They were my buddies. Played, you know, and I got to know them. These are African American fellas, and they're great. And we used to go do stuff together and all that. So in other words, I followed my mom's advice. Thank God. Okay. So all these experiences and the weight loss in particular, I learned so much about that experience because I had 55 years of indoctrination and domestication that I had to figure out, how am I going to get rid of this and replace it with new habits? And once I figured out how to do it for my health, I figured out a lot of other stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Because now you are in control of your narrative because you understand. It's often I have this type of conversation with my students, and I said, look, everything you've learned, think of yourself as a computer, right? We've programmed you. Society has programmed you. Your family has programmed you. Your schools have programmed you. You know, your friends, your whoever you've been exposed to, the news media, you're programmed, right? You need to realize that you're programmed, because then you can unprogram and reprogram, right? We can then identify those things that we need to erase from our computer. Like, you know, it's got too much, you know, we got to clear the cache, right?
Exactly.
on our internet browser, right? We got to clear that and then kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, what can I reprogram to make myself function better?
And I first experienced doing this in 1998 when I quit smoking. Mindfulness
How many
training.
packs a day would you smoke?
Well, I mean, up until then, again, through most of my adult life, 2 or 3 packs, you know, and then I put filters on them at one point, and then, well, that time, you know, you could buy a carton of cigarettes for like $12, okay? Or I worked at a gas station, also.
Okay.
I worked at a gas station in South San Francisco.
You had access. You had a lot of access.
Well, not only that, but we had a cigarette machine there like they all did at the time, right? And some of the guys that worked there before me showed me how to lift up the glass that showed you what was behind there and to pull out packs. So that poor guy would come to restock the machine, and he might get paid for like 10 packs, and the rest of it were gone by all of us. He eventually took the machine out of there. So, you know, crap like that. So, yeah, all those things were episodes. And then, so I would, you know, I'd work I'd get up in the paper route. I started with a paper route in the morning. And then my dad would pick me up. We'd be in work at 8:15. I'd get off work at 4:30. I would go to the gas station right afterwards. I would work at the gas station until 9 o'clock. Then I would pick up one of my buddies. We'd go up to San Francisco. We'd go to the Fillmore. We'd listen to the Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, blah, 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 until 2. I'd get home, a good solid 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and start at it again.
Wow.
That was my life. So that was my life from the time I was 15, 16 until I got married.
Wow.
It makes me tired just thinking about it, honestly.
That's like unsustainable.
So, and the point being, when I went through some classes in 2015 and 2016 with this amazing woman, PhD in spiritual psychology, and she taught me so much about what I didn't know.
And remind me, you met her because of this whole episode with the doctor and your surgery for your...
No.
Or how did you meet her?
I met her because I had one of my clients. I had a lot of clients, and one of my clients...
Because you're still the businessman. You're still an advisor. You still coach a lot of private entrepreneurs.
A year after I had the weight loss, I got certified as a personal trainer. I wrote a book on changing your lifestyle. The book became part of a training program for bariatric patients. And I stopped my radio show because I really, really wanted to understand and pursue more about my health and how I can communicate this to others.
Yeah, because you're now on a new wavelength. You're now mentally and spiritually on a completely new wavelength. So you recreated yourself with knowledge and with love.
Exactly. And I was able to go through all of these life experiences from the time I was a little kid up until the time of my surgery and understand them and put them into context and understand what lessons I was learning. I went through the whole process. So it was during that, so I went back to Sacramento, visited my one client that I had for years. And he said, Rob, you'd make a good motivational speaker. We're starting a motivational speakers service, okay? And I'd like to have you be my first guy. So I went up there and met him, and he was getting married to this guy, his second marriage. He was at my house for a lot when he was going through his divorce and so forth. Anyhow, his fiance was really into this place up in Cameron Park, up near Folsom and so forth.
Yeah.
She was a part of this Spiritual Center for Positive Living is what it was. She says, Rob, you need to go to this thing and really see what they have to offer. And I did right then. I said, sure, I'm game, man, because I'm trying to sort through all my new feelings and all my new experiences and so forth. And that lady was brilliant. And we got to be close friends. And I'm still friends with her today. She moved to Mexico just recently, like a year ago. At any rate, so she is the one that taught me. And there's about 20 some odd books that we studied over a 2-year period of time. The first of which was The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I got to meet him as well. And I got to really understand and appreciate what he had to say and how he had to say it and he did. And book after book after book after that woke me up to all kinds of stuff like that. So pretty soon,
which help you understand why you were doing a lot of the things in the past, why you were living this kind of destructive, like lifestyle, right? Not only health wise, but drug wise, alcohol wise, gambling wise. Your relationship with your wife, all of that. Once you get to that stage in your life, you begin to now understand. Oh my God, my behaviors were a result of the trauma, right? Or the traumas that I experienced as a young person.
No doubt. And along that same period, the same gentleman that wanted me as a motivational speaker had come back from a business trip, and the Uber driver, they got to be talking, and he says, well, I give speeches on changing your lifestyle and on mindfulness training. He said, oh, really? What do you do? He said, well, there was a book called Childhood Disrupted. And I go around and I teach people what I learned in there. So I went out and got a copy. And that book identified for me why I and everybody else like it can fall into these patterns. There's 3
and these cycles, right? Cycles of chaos in our lives.
Yeah. And the book is based upon a study that Kaiser Permanente did over a 30-year period of time involving almost 40,000 people that they studied. Looking at the habits, the choices that they made and so forth. And they learned 3 important things. Well, the most important thing is there are 3 periods in your domestication period while you're growing up. The first 7 years of your life, the next 7 years of your life, and then the next 7 years of your life. So ages 7, 14, and 21. And there's a test that you can take online, and I would encourage anybody to do this, called the ACE test, ACE, the ACE test. If you just Google ACE test, it'll come up. And ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And if you can answer yes to 3 or more of these 10 conditions, experiences, you're going to have your cortisol, your fight or flight mechanism stuck in the open position.
Yeah.
It's not going to
elevated, right? Just
totally.
So high stress. Even though you might not think it's stress, yes, you are. You're on guard mode all the time.
So the rest of your time, you're trying to soothe that pain. Eckhart Tolle calls it pain body. You have this pain in your body. It's not always present, but it shows up a lot. And you learn to soothe that pain. I did it initially through food. There's nothing wrong with that. I would eat a lot of food. Then I did it with cigarettes. Then I did it with drinking. Then I did it with drugs. Then I did it with gambling. Then I did it with sex. All these different issues, trying to close that damn door. Okay? So I didn't learn the importance of that until I was at these classes. And I've been teaching and coaching and, motivating people for a long time, right? Since the 70s.
Yeah.
And I finally understood what the hell I was doing and why. And that opened up.
Right. And this happened later in life, right? This happened later in your life, not while you were doing all it.
No.
Yeah.
So when I first started to lose the weight, and my registered dietitian told me, if you ever want to eat bread or anything made out of wheat again, you need to learn how to cook, how to bake, because processed grains is what's going to cause you an illness. You have to use whole grains. I said, yeah, and they're hard to find. I said, what do you mean they're hard to find? Grocery store is full of whole wheat. She said, I didn't say whole wheat. I said, whole grains. What is that? She says, well,
we
that's
can't
for
believe
the
the grocery store.
No. She said, that's for the bran and the endosperm and the germ are still in the flour. I said, I can't. Well, that's very hard to do. Okay. And if you're going to do it, you better learn how to do it. So I learned how to do it. Was not easy at first. I started a culture, did all these things. It led to a pretty damn good loaf of bread coming from door stoppers and things that people couldn't eat that they gave to their pets and so forth, to finally an edible loaf of bread. And I got better and better at it. And I moved to Sacramento.
So you taught yourself, you were learning this on, I do want to eat better. I do want to. So you learned how to bake.
I went through a couple of courses. Yeah. I mean, so
because
I went
to
what's in the store.
What's in the store? Let's not bullshit here. What's in the store? Most of it is poison.
Leave it there.
There's so much preservatives pumped into the food, and then later we wonder why we have cancer. Right? Later we wonder why we have diabetes. Later we wonder
why we're obese.
And we've been eating shit for 30, 40 years, and then we wonder why our body's organs don't work.
Exactly.
I totally see and agree, because I also, a few years ago realized, oh my God, I'm putting things in my mouth that are going to lead me to a horrible death. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to do that. And I decided, it's time to start eating more greens, just straight, growing my own food, as much as I can, and really leaving the preservatives as much as possible behind me. Right, is reducing that. And so I totally see what we have the same vision now, where you understand that you just can't, you're in control of your health.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, I used to before I'd go home, before my surgery, before I started this thing, my wife we'd have a snack before dinner, and we'd have dinner and so forth. But on my way home, right before I got home, I would stop by Burger King and buy $2 burgers. My snack for the 5 blocks I had to go to my house. Okay. So all of that. So I learned the value of the Mediterranean diet. It's the healthiest diet on earth.
Fruits, as fresh as possible.
Vegetables, whole grains, and so everything is different. So the main takeaway from this too, in terms of my life and what I do with people these days, is that I understand how I got to where I was. I understand what I had to do to change it. I had to understand really how to create my best life. Now I know what my best life was too. Okay. I mean, I went and heard Deepak Chopra at the Folsom Harris Theater at the in Folsom, and in a room 1,000 people were in this theater, And he says, okay, now we're gonna meditate for 5 minutes, and I want you to tell yourself the following 3 things. Ask yourself this question and don't look for the answer. Who are you? What do you want? What's your purpose? Say that again and again and again and again. So I did. And before you know it, the answers came. The answers presented themselves. A few years later, an absolute perfect dream life came together, and you couldn't give me $100 million to stop what I'm doing now and make it different. It's perfect. So now I'm so empowered to help people. Now I want to go back to these businessmen, and because this is the other part of why I'm a business coach. I mean, these guys would come to me, and I've done every aspect of business that you could think of: mergers, acquisitions, risk management, organizational development, human resource management, financing, nonprofits, anything like that.
Exactly. Growth, just any business organization, whether it's a bakery or whether it's a corporation.
Exactly. So for 20 years in my career, following my insurance industry career, I would go into businesses that were broken. They had been successful, shit happened, and they were facing bankruptcy, lawsuits, the IRS, you name it. And so I made a living, and I had about 17 consultants working for me in 3 states. I made a living going into a troubled company. They were desperate, and they were willing to do anything at that point because they had built this thing up.
Yeah, because they're going bankrupt if they don't. Yep.
Exactly. So I'd say, look, I can help you. Okay? I know I can help you, but you have to commit to being honest with me. I'm going to be blunt with you in terms of how you got in this situation. I'm going to organize your business to recover from this, and I'm going to sell the plan to the creditors, starting with the IRS. So, wow, you can do that? I said, yep, I could do that. And I did it. My company did it for over 200 businesses. And I would go into meetings. There might be 2 or 3 IRS agents there. I would cut a deal with them, get them to do it. Sometimes we had to use Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It's where my attorney got involved and so forth. But basically, I wanted to teach people how to do it non-traditionally. You could recover from where you are without having to go through bankruptcy. Now, all of those lessons, all of those experiences taught me what made businesses successful, what they could do to damage themselves, what they could do to fall off the damn cliff, and what it takes to recover. So that gives me a complete holistic view of the business. Now, so many of these things, so many of these businesses were a result of bad interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, the employees within, right? The employees within, and
the employees, the vendors, whoever it might have been. Okay, they were crappy. You name it, and they didn't know how to interface with people in an honest and productive and positive manner. And I would go in there, and as a result, their business would falter. Their lives would be divorced.
They lose money. You're losing money every time. Yeah, absolutely.
And
so you'd then prescribe the change, right? You're like the doctor. The business came in, they're sick, right? And they come to see, Tio Rob. Tio Rob, I'm sick. Okay, I might not make it, and you're providing prescriptive type information and action that they need to take immediately. And you would take some action, right? You'd have to operate in some cases. You would be advisor in another case, right?
Well, and the thing is that what I've also learned is that when the student is ready, the teacher will come, okay? And so I could have gone to these same people a year or 2 or 3 before they got into trouble, and they wouldn't listen to a damn thing I had to say. Because there was no problem. You couldn't? I got a great business here. I may have problems with my wife, blah, 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 blah. But no, I don't need any help. I'm good. Well, have you thought about this? Yeah, but I don't care. Have you thought about that? Nah, it's okay. Not a problem. 2 years later, 3 years later, help! Yikes! Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So
I see it all day with college students. They come in super confident. A semester later, they're like, I'm about to get kicked out.
Well, and so really, that's one of the reasons why I'm blessed and so appreciative to be with you on this show and on what we're talking about, because if I could help somebody in their teens or 20s or whatever the age may be, but especially as they're looking at what their career is all about, what they want to do with themselves, If they could base
how they
that
should
on
think
who they
about
are.
the future and the mindset on what this really means.
Yep. So these days, my life is consumed by. I have a couple of really good clients that I love dearly. That's how I met Maria. And we were doing the Cesar Chavez Plaza renovation, all those things. And the employees at these companies that I'm coaching today say, hey, Rob, I got a question for you. How do I handle this? What do I do about that? What do I do about this? This guy, he's really hard to listen to. He's really hard to work with. I'm having challenges. I said, well, let me help. That's fine. So we would start these meetings like this, like I'm doing on Zoom. And the first thing I would talk about before we do anything, I'd start with the 4 agreements. I said, look, let's make you your best possible person. Let's do everything we can to prepare you to manage your reactions. It's all about managing how you react to things. Are you angry? Are you upset? Are you pissed? You want to get even? You want to quit? Let's get past all that, okay? Because we don't need to have that shit knock you down. It's not going to help you. It's not going to be your best friend. And so we would go through that, and I would use some of the excerpts of all these books that I've been looking at, reading, and so forth, and I would help them come to their own peace. I would help them react differently. And I've done this for an entire company now. All the employees, we all got together and talked about, look, there's too much drama around here. There's friction, there's competition. We don't need that, okay? Why don't we look at things differently? And, and say in many cases, half the population were Spanish speaking. And my Spanish is not good, okay? And I had to
teach a class in Spanish. It's not that good.
So I would go into the company, and thankfully, either my energy, my way I treated people, the dignity that I like to treat people with, and so forth, wore off on these folks. So they trusted me, and they liked me going in. I didn't know how to say anything other than, where's this?
Right.
¿Qué pasa, Rob? That's about it, right? But I started
to trying.
Fire them.
And they end up living.
Exactly. So when it came time to give these classes to 20, 30 people in this company, they listened and they reacted and they understood what I was saying. And the book was available. The 4 Agreements was originally written in Spanish by Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay. So I had the English version, they had the Spanish version, and we went through these things over about a 4-week period of time. We meet for a couple of hours in a week, and it worked out well. And I saw the results. We got rid of the drama. The guy's company went from when I first started working with him, he did $150,000 a year. This year, maybe $4 million. So he's grown like crazy. He's been my prized student. I love this. He's one of my 4. I have 3 sons. I have my son. I have my son-in-law, who is absolutely the most positive and amazing person you'll ever meet in your life. And I have this client of mine. And all these 3 guys are about the same age. They're in their mid-40s. And so I'm like, I'm either a father figure to them, I'm a best friend, I'm a tio, I'm a abuelo. It doesn't matter. I love them dearly. I would do anything in the world for them. And they consider me their father. The last guy in particular, he hasn't had a father his entire life. He came up from Mexico.
Wow.
And he's just the most positive guy you'll ever meet in your life. And it's become my son. And I recognize that as such. So those are all the ingredients that kind of position me today to help people. Yeah, and there's a lot more to it than that, but long story short, I have a tremendous amount of compassion. I mean, when I went through all these classes, and who are you and what do you want and so forth, who I am, I'm not doing this to brag or not be humble. I mean to be complete humility when I say these things, but I realized that I'm a compassionate man. I'm a patient man. I'm a wealthy man. Now, I don't mean $1 million bank account. I mean, I want for nothing. And that makes me wealthy as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Okay? Because you desire no other than what you have.
Exactly.
That's right.
I'm a trustworthy individual because I live by the 4 agreements, right? And the 4 agreements, just in a nutshell, be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And then finally, I hope to be an inspiration to others. That's my motivation. That's what I do. That's what I'm all about. And I do consulting. I have business clients. I teach people how to succeed in business. I teach people to become great employees. I help people arrive at these same locations on their own. And I'm living my best life because of what I'm doing. And I have absolutely no intention of doing anything other than continuing on this path until I'm unable to. And hopefully that's well into my 80s and who knows, maybe 90 or better. I don't know. Don't care. That's you know, I keep myself in shape. I eat good, all that.
And so on this journey, right, you keep mentioning, you know, the 4 agreements, right, by Miguel Ruiz. And so anyone can, you know, download that, look it up, et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about being impeccable with your word, right? That's the first one. And then,
absolutely.
You know, just understanding that don't take things personally, right? That opens up a whole other level of solutions when you realize that, you know, this isn't personal, right? This is usually business, is usually just, you know, other people going through other things themselves, and they're projecting that on me or something. It's really not personal, right? And when you can let that go, then you can, again, start coming up with other things. That's the second one. The third is making assumptions, right? Exactly. Don't make assumptions. You know, I always tell my kids, I said, look, when you make an assumption, you know, if you spell it out, you make an ass out of you and me. Do not make an assumption. Always communicate, always reach out. Do not make
and before you get into the fourth one, I'll tell you a story, just a short story. I had a client with me in the car, and we're busy. He's going along. We're at a stoplight, and there's a guy holding a sign up. And one of the signs wants money, right? And out of work, blah, blah, blah. And this guy turns around and he says, look at that guy. Nothing wrong with him. Why isn't he out? Why can't he just get a job? You know, what's he doing? What is that? I don't get that. And I say, well, that's a really good question. Why is he there? What happened to him that led him here? Is he got a sickness that he can't overcome? Did he have a drug? What do you, I mean, let's sit around and guess as to why the guy's out there. But, you know, until I know his story, I can't judge him.
That's right. That's
right. And he looked at me like, all right, you know, begrudgingly. But I mean,
we make assumptions when we see people, right? We make assumptions that we have nothing in common. We make assumptions that, you know, based on our belief system about others, right? And it's so
isn't
true.
That racism?
Right? It is, right?
Isn't that the basis of racism?
Sexism,
bigotry,
racism, exactly.
You name it, man.
All of
You're making assumptions that what's going on in their head, not right. They don't feel the way I do. They don't look at things the way I do. Well, okay.
That's right.
They may be kind of different domestication than you do. So go ahead with the fourth one.
Absolutely. And then the fourth one is just always do your best, right? Is whatever time you have, right? You're able to do your best with that at that moment, right? It might not, you know, I while I was in school, I started realizing that, you know, my best today might only be 50% of the paper.
Exactly.
You know, but 50% of the paper is better than zero. So I'm going to turn something in, whether it's terrible or not. I'm going to turn something in because that was what I could do during that period of time in my life that it was due. And it goes back to, like, you know, I was working 3 different jobs trying to pay my way through school, wasn't living at home, you know, just, you know, first gen, there was just so many things going on that I could literally only produce this much for certain, you know, classes. And I started to always realize that, you know what, my best this week is only 2 hours.
Exactly. Well,
you know, I wish I could do 20 hours, but my life right now isn't going to allow me to do that.
When I first started my journey after my surgery and so forth, and I'm walking, hiking and all this and that, there was a big hill behind my house where I lived, right? I walked up to the top of the hill. I see this guy down walking up this super long, super steep hill. I thought, Jesus, this guy's walking up. How's he walking up that hill? Criminy! I got to try that. I got to see what I can do. So I would start off and I would do zigzag, 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 going down. And really big zigzags, taking my time coming up. Eventually, maybe after about a month, I could get down there, okay? And I could get back up. But here was the key. There was this was a trail, and there was a entrance to the trail at the bottom of this thing, and there was a metal post there with a gate around. And I said to myself, what I have to do, my best effort is to go all the way down, go around that pole, and then make my way up. I'm not going to take any shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I began
and that
to do
pole
that.
was a symbol now.
Yeah, my best. Okay.
Yeah.
And I did that.
Right.
I did that. And then ultimately I ran the beta breakers and all these things. I'm thinking, oh man, this is cool. Wow, this is so fun. You know, naked ladies running around with me and all that. Sure, you bet. I like that, you know. But I made it the whole way and I had my fun at the end. And I thought, look what I've been missing, man.
It's your
I was in my
best
late
at
50s.
That's right. It's your best at that moment, at that time,
Always.
right? And again, you're never. Sometimes your best might be this much. Sometimes your best is you killed it. You know, you just took it to that whole other level. But really being conscious and putting in the time when you can to do your best at whatever you do, whether it's your relationship, whether it's eating, whether it's business, whether it's going to school. It doesn't matter. It's doing your best at everything you choose to do.
Well, if you ask my wife, 52 years, we've been dating for 56 years. When I tell you that of the things that make who I am, and the second one is patience, she'd say, yeah. Because even at that, okay, my best might be a little bit of patience with this thing, but not all. The more I do it, the more I practice it, the better I get at it. Because I realize that she still works, she's got a job, and she's got issues and so forth.
That's
I
right.
don't want to judge her. I don't want to take it personally. Even though I've been husband, I've been married for a long time. Why is she treating me this way? But hey, let it pass, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's funny you mentioned that because I've always battled with ADHD, right? Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Never officially diagnosed because, you know, growing up we were poor. You know, if you go to a doctor, that's money we don't have. So there was never. But as an adult, you know, now you have insurance and they're like, hey, you're like total ADHD. Like, that's why I suffered through school so much, because teachers wanted me to sit still. Right. And focus on one thing. And my brain is focusing on 25 different things at once. I am focusing on what she said, but I also am focusing on these other 20 things. Right. And my best was really starting projects, getting them to about 60-70% done, and then moving on to the new project. Right. And handing off that project that I had to somebody else that has the personality and has the capacity to take it from 70 to 100. And, you know, the classic thing is in life, I learned to do that. I said, hey, you know, don't look at me as the finisher. You need to look at me as the starter, right? That spark.
You were the point guard. You're the point guard.
And then I'm off to the next one. And so I, you know, as I found, you know, the love of my life, Maria, she was total opposite. She was the finisher. She was the one who took it to the 100% and beyond. And it really, I started to really see like, wow, even though, you know, I as a young person, I imagined and thought I would be in other places. My life is so different because you're able to understand your strengths, right? And my strengths is starting things, moving forward, getting the foundation and the framing and the roof, you know, and maybe the walls, but that's it. All the finishing stuff needs to go to somebody else. And so that's part of your growth as well. So if you're one of those young people listening to us, right, you're going to continue to grow through these stages in life, right? All the way to the end. You're going to keep growing until it's at the end. And some of the things you might be going through because of the situations you're in or the decisions you make or the way your personality and brain thinks. That's why we're doing this, to have an outlet of how others have, you know, morphed and managed their lives, right? Wherever they started, you know, in stages as we learn and as we become true, you know, human beings, right? Sharing and loving and being healthy and really understanding the truth of things, right? Whether they're the truth about nutrition or the truth about the political situations or the truth about, you know, just relationships. Yeah. Those are the kinds of things we're going to be discussing on these podcasts with Tio Rob. So please continue to listen in, because every episode we're going to focus on different things. Some of them will focus. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. Well, you brought up two really important things. But I'll say, first of all, my ACE score on the adverse childhood
trauma,
yeah, up to 10. I scored an 8 on that one. Okay, I didn't ace all the way to 10, but I had 8. And my mom, I mean, she minimum wage, she knew nothing, and she raised us, and she had, talk about going to the doctor, going to the dentist, going to get a pair of pants to go back to school, all those things. We had zero, nothing. Yeah. But I had her love. Okay, but you talk about the 4 guys I mentioned earlier. They're all finishers. Okay, they are all finishers, and they all recognize and respect me as a starter. They always have. Nice. I didn't know the terminology. You framed it perfectly, but all those guys. So the first thing I would suggest to anybody, see what you can do to figure out whether you're a starter or a finisher, because we need both, right?
That's right.
If you're a starter, and if you're blessed, you can find finishers that you can love and trust, and they can love you. And the second thing you said is really important. Your wife, I mean, I met her at these meetings, and I swear to God, there's like a little glow of sunshine going above her. I mean, she just emanated love, respect, compassion, knowledge, ability. I mean, it was magic. And so I was drawn to her because she's got a very magnetic energy about her. Okay.
That's right. And it stems from the harmony in the family. No, it's like Absolutely. Seriously, right? Is because I'll be honest.
Yep.
The way I grew up, there is no real shine. There's, I got brothers and sisters, and I love them, but we don't have to see each other for years. Right kind of relationship.
I had the same experience. I met my wife as a junior in high school, and she was in an extraordinarily functional Jewish family. They had
very close. I'm sure very close.
Like, oh man, I mean, it was the family between my musician friend and my wife. Those are the families that raised me in every other way. Okay, and my wife has been my rudder. She's been my net, safety net. She's been my mentor or my listener for 56 years.
Yep.
And so God, whoever that is, the universe brought us together. Is the bottom.
Oh, I feel the same way.
And here I am.
I know exactly what
years old, coming so alive with these concepts. So,
and not only that, I want to give the shout out to them because they put up with us.
Yeah.
When we were not the best people on the planet, and I'll be the first to confess, I put her through the first 7 years of hell, right? Before I had to unprogram, right? The 21 years prior, I had to unprogram my behaviors and start accepting some of the reprogramming that she brought into my life. And that's why I'm able to, and I know confidently, that's why I'm not in prison right now, right? Or dead. Like just
well, I can tell you, one of the things that I do forensic investigations of situations, okay? And I've had the blessing and the honor of meeting your children, 2 of your 3 kids. And I can tell you that it is so obvious to me that they have been given the domestication, the love, the direction, everything that they need, because they are amazing kids.
Thank you.
There's one I haven't met yet. I want to meet him one of these days. But when you meet kids like that, and I know the parents, man, it's just obvious to me what goes on. I'm blessed with my daughter, my son-in-law, my granddaughters have a place above us. My son has a place below us. We live up at the hills now, of course, and all that. So I know what that's like. But it took me the better part of 50 years to help make that a reality. And I mean 50 years of marriage. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's say my mid 60s anyway. Okay.
Yeah. So we're not here and we're not here to tell the crowd that it's perfect. Hell no. It's far from perfect.
No.
We don't agree on certain things.
But it's way far away from being bad.
Yes. Yeah.
The moment you can take a bad situation and understand it and process it and extract the lessons from it and bless the fact that you had that experience because it helped you, man, life is easier.
It is.
Inch by inch,
and that's what
yard by yard.
And that's what Tio Rob and Professor G want from all of these, right?
That's it.
The same kind of happiness, the same kind of obstacles that you overcome, right? But you draw and really those negative obstacles, because those negative obstacles we learn from the most. And if we can change those negative obstacles into something positive, that's really our ultimate goal here, whether it be with your health, whether it be with your business, whether it be with your relationship with your loved one, your significant other, or your children, or your neighbor. We can,
well, especially to the audience that you're going to be most likely listening and watching some of these things, and I'm so hopeful that they do. The best advice I would ever give anybody is that if you're getting ready to go on a journey, and your journey is in getting an education to focus your life where it needs to be, you better make yourself the best version of yourself in preparation that you possibly can. It'll help you get through it. It'll help you prepare. You're not going to be done learning. I'm certainly not. Oh my God, no. Every day it's something different. But I'll leave you with this. One of my earliest books that really had a great influence on me was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay? Dr. Stephen Covey. And the line that comes from that I really love is, he says, as human beings, we live to live a life that leave a legacy, love, and leave a legacy. And that's why I'm here. Okay, live, love, and leave a legacy, man. I mean, my time on Earth will have been spent wisely if I could leave it with a few of the lessons that I've learned, help a few people get to where they want to go. So that's really what it's all about.
Thank you for tuning into Techo Guide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.